Welcome to another episode of the Calling and the Climb podcast. I am Phil, and my co-host is
Kent Curry.
Hey, Kent. How are you today?
Doing good, thanks. We've had some technical problems, but I think we're persevering and winning here finally.
You know, I am working as I'm working today. I'm working as a podcast host, and I am working on the back end as an IT specialist.
So there you go. There you go. Never lose those skills.
That's right.
So I wanted to ask about business, change in business versus, we always talk about personal change, the necessity to grow and, mature, et cetera, et cetera. But is business change any different as far as both what you have to do and how you portray it to clients?
Um, I don't know that it's so much different. It's something that you definitely need to deal with and have to deal with if you're in business long enough. There are things that are going to have to change. Um, I've mentioned before how my business went through different seasons.
Sure.
And what would work in season one may no longer work effectively in season two or certainly by season three. And so I'd have to evolve and change different things in the business to relate to the changing market, the changing customer client base, the changing prevailing technology at the time, and so on. So change was something I had to navigate certainly quite frequently, both from a business perspective and also just from a technical perspective. My business, everybody knows, was information technology consulting. And that is a subject matter that is changing all the time, rapidly changing. Certainly during the time I had my business, there was a huge changes in technology that were happening year after year after year after year. So we would have to navigate that not only for our internal business, but also for our clients. That was part of my job, Kent, was to implement change into other businesses. And many times they didn't want the change, at least the rank and file, the people that we were doing the implementation with, they didn't want it. Why are you doing this? The old way is not broke. Why do we have to do it this way? And so we would confront that. And so having to deal with that with our clients taught me how I had to approach change from within my organization.
Oh, okay.
And just
dig deeper.
I'm sorry?
Dig a little deeper on that.
Well, just if I was going to implement something in my organization and I felt resistance to that, even really big resistance, there might be a tendency to say, oh, let's back away because that's painful. I don't want to go there.
Right.
But having seen that same response into me trying to implement change at a client site in their technology, for example, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
So we had a client law firm, and they had a lot of legal assistants that did a lot of typing legal documents, a ton of typing. And so obviously they all had word processing software. They had their computers they used, and they were very good at what they did. But we had a number of assistants at this particular firm that were developing carpal tunnel syndrome, okay, because of all the typing. And so we began to, had a lot of complaints about that. And so we began to look at, well, is there something that we can do? And so we discovered these ergonomic keyboards. You probably have seen the split keyboards where you kind of orient your hands like this. And it's very different, but it is designed to help with this particular issue with carpal tunnel. People do a lot of typing. And so we made the decision in conjunction with the people, our contact at the firm, that we're going to implement this. We're going to give them these ergonomic keyboards to help solve this problem. Well, you would have thought that we were,
Yep. Changing everything.
You would have thought we were changing daylight savings time. I'll put it that way.
All right. Okay.
So there was one lady in particular, and she was an assistant for one of the senior partners. So she was
Okay.
a big cheese in
Yeah.
this firm.
Influential.
And she got downright hateful. Like I would pass by her desk and
Oh,
she'd say, "When are you going to take this keyboard away? I can't stand it. I can't type on it." And she was just very, very upset. And so, unfortunately, it was not up to her whether or not she got that keyboard. The verdict had come down, and so I just tried to reason with her. I said, "Look here." I said, "A number of people have been suffering from this." So I gave a rationale for the change. It's not change
okay.
just for the sake of change. There is a rationale, and that's important. Being able to explain that. And here's the other thing. I said, "You know what? I'll make a deal with you. Work, use this keyboard for 2 weeks. And if you still cannot type on it, it'll be just be between you and me. I'll sneak your old keyboard back up here." She goes, "Deal, deal, deal." So, all right. So 2 weeks came and went, and I went and said, she goes, "Yeah, I kind of got used to this. I think I don't want my old keyboard back." So then fast
Oh,
forward like a year or two down the road, and her keyboard went out, and we had to get a new keyboard. But in the meantime, I just plugged an emergency one in there, and it was her old style keyboard.
okay.
Went by her desk. "When are you going to take this stupid keyboard? I can't type on it." Same thing that she had
Right.
said about 2 years earlier.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
case in point, change is hard. It's very hard, but there are ways to implement it. Now, why is it so difficult for us to change sometimes? I think a lot of times it's ego, particularly for me.
Mm,
I'll be honest with
okay.
you. There were some things that I set up in the beginning of my business, and this is the way we do things, and I'm having success with it, and I'm growing the business. And then one day, somebody comes up with a better idea of how to do that.
Uh,
And so if I let my ego get in the way, I'm like, "No way are we going for your newfangled plan, because you know what? I'm the genius that thought up the plan we're using now."
yes.
So I'll tell you a little illustration that taught me a lesson about that. There was a firm that we were implementing a document management system in, and
All right.
they did not have a document management system. They had one, but it was a manual system. In other words, they had designed a very elaborate structure how they kept all their files. And I came to find out once I got in there beginning to understand how they filed things now, like all of their letters, all their briefs, all of their pleadings, et cetera. And they had a very elaborate folder structure in Microsoft Windows, how they would do that. So everybody knew how to find X, Y, Z, or whatever, the system.
Okay.
So we were going to implement this document management system because it was not very searchable. What they had was not very searchable. You had to know where to go. But if a new associate came in, or a new assistant, they can't find anything because they don't know where things are stored. We needed a
Where the
searchable
secrets
system. So
are.
we went getting way too far in the weeds on this. But needless to say, we were implementing a document management system. But unbeknownst to me, until I got into this, I found out that this elaborate folder structure that they had was established by the senior partner at this firm. He was the one that put that in the play. And this was years before there were even before there was even modern networks and that sort of thing. It was a
Got it.
rudimentary but a very effective way to store their documents for that day and time. But we were getting ready to destroy it and put in a brand
Uh,
new system. And the senior partner was the one that devised the old system.
right.
So part of the deal of implementing the change is that we had classes, training classes on the new system. And certainly it was mandatory for all of the legal assistants, all the paralegals, and it was I think all the associates. And it was strongly encouraged the partners to come, but you don't make partners do anything. So
Okay.
but we wanted the people that are using the system day in. So I'm teaching. I'm teaching the class. And we had it in our office. At that time we had a small little training room, and we had brought people in shifts, and we were doing, shift 1, shift 2, and so on. And so I am down there doing my lesson, and everybody's sitting at the keyboard, and it's hands on. So I want people to learn how to do this. And I look up, and who walks in the door? But the senior
Hmm.
partner
Of course.
who designed the old system.
Right.
And and this is a guy. He was a legend. He was a legend he was a legend in the city. He was a legend. And it took me aback. I'm like, oh, is he coming to shut us down? No.
Here, get out of here.
Here's what he said. He goes, I know I don't use computers very much, and but I'm coming down here as an example. Everybody needs to learn this system. Boom,
Wow.
boom. Set the ego aside. Change is important because we've got to grow. And he understood that. So it taught me a lesson.
Wow.
Don't let
That's
your
fabulous.
don't let your ego stand in the way.
Right.
So how it occurred to me that how change affected me in my business was in the early days. Um, how I build the only way I knew how to build. I build my time. If I went and worked at your firm for an hour, you got to bill for 1 hour of my time, whatever my rate was. And then as I started hiring other techs, then I would build their time. It would probably be at a lower rate than mine, but nonetheless, we had a system and we had a timekeeping system. Everybody put their time in, and then we would bill that. So one day I'm talking to someone who was an advisor to me in the business and just talking about strategizing ways to grow the business and so on. He goes, you know what, you you're doing good, but you need to get away from the billable hour because it's very it's not predictable. You know,
How so? What do you mean?
this week I may get 20 calls and have 60 billable hours. Next week, I may get 5
Okay.
calls and have 12 billable hours. That's a big difference
Got
in
it.
revenue from week to week. So you can't really predict and plan. I'm like,
Okay.
okay. He goes, so what you need to do, you need to figure out a way that you can charge people for blocks of hours and mandate that they buy a minimum number of hours at the beginning of every month. And I'm not saying get totally away from it, but like that way, I've got X coming in every month. I'm like, that makes sense. That
Right.
that makes sense. But now I've got to go and implement this change to clients that are used to getting a bill only when they've given me a call and have a problem. And what I had to do is say, you know what? Instead of you getting a reactive bill, I'm going to send you a proactive bill that, and based on my experience and working with firms and firms your size, I know that you're going to use about 15 hours a month. That's typically on average. So you're going to get a bill from me every month for 15 hours. Now, what I didn't say is whether
Okay.
you used them or not, but I did. That was it.
Right.
It's kind of like the old phone plans. You know, when you used to get those phone plans and you would get so many minutes? That's basically
Yes.
what we were doing. And you're going to buy a block of
Okay.
minutes or a block of hours in our
Yep.
case. So what became very when I first was thinking about that, I'm like, well, that makes total sense. But then I start trying to implement it, and that was the hard part because you can't just change on a dime and not tell people what you're doing. So
No, true.
I knew if my next billing I just sent out and maybe they had not called me at all that month and they get a bill for 15 hours, they're going to go ballistic. So I
Right.
had to plan for it. So I took some time and we sat down with some people in our firm. We started looking at all it. We went back and looked at all the invoices back from the beginning of time where we had them. We started seeing how much a firm of this particular size, how many servers they have, how many people they have, how many hours did they use going back 3, 4, 5 years. And then we tried to come up with classes of clients and how many hours we could bill them. So we didn't want to be haphazard about it. We wanted to have a rationale behind it. Then we had to sit down and talk to the client and explain what we were doing. That's where I met the resistance. As a matter of fact,
Okay.
the person that was my advisor that told me I needed to do this,
Blocks.
blocks of hours. So I went to his firm and sat down and said, we're going to do it. Guess what? They fired us. His firm
Oh,
fired us for implementing the change that he recommended. This is what you need to do, Philip, to get your business on solid footing.
grow it.
Yep.
Grow it.
Grow
Grow
it.
it.
Grow it.
Yes. That's right.
I,
With
I,
fewer
I,
clients.
I lost some clients over that, and
Okay.
that hurt, and I felt the
Of course.
resistance. So the natural tendency is when you feel pain is to back away from it. But
Of
I was
course.
convinced, I knew this was the way that we had to go. I had read some books. I'd seen other similar firms in other parts of the country had everybody was talking about going to this type of billing. It was something that was coming. It was coming to stay. And the old model, you couldn't plan resources. And so that was my rationale when I would sit down with the client to explain to them, look, I've got a big staff now. And so
Right.
if I have somebody on the ready to instantly, when you have a problem, I have got to send them, and you want instant attention to your problem, then I have to have them sitting there ready to go. Well,
Right.
I've got to know that I have work for them to do. They're not going to sit at home and just wait till you have a problem and then I call them in. So I'm having to plan my resources to meet your need. And to do that, I need to know that you're going to use 15 hours a month or whatever it was. So some clients accepted it, some did not. I lost some clients over that. But I couldn't back away from it because it was needed change. If I was going to grow and continue to grow my staff, I had to do that.
Predictable.
Predictable. Had to come to
All
predictable.
right.
It was just the change. Managing the change was the
Yeah.
hard part. So here is what I felt like were some keys for me to implement change successfully. Number one, plan for change. Don't spring it on anybody. You got to plan for it, whether it's internal, whether it's for your clients, whatever it is, you got to plan for it. I knew I couldn't just on a dime change the way we were billing and expect no one to raise a voice over that. That's why I spent considerable time, probably a month or longer, going back, looking at our billing, planning and strategizing how we're going to do that. Doing a letter that explained and vetting that through several people to read through. Nowadays I would run it through AI and say, "Hey, make this as acceptable,
Accessible and
exactly
acceptable.
accessible as you can." But I would let people read it. Help me to make it where it's not offensive, where it's non-threatening, and where people are likely to accept it, explaining the rationale. Number two, expect resistance and have resources to address that. So I probably was naive in the first few, thinking, okay, everybody's going to understand my rationale, and they're just going to say, yeah, change the way you're billing me, or whatever it is, or give me a new keyboard, or give me a new
Right.
email server, or whatever it is. Expect always, anytime you're implementing change, the way people do things, they're going to resist that. So you have ways to help mitigate that. Whether it's, look, we're going to work with you through this. We're going to put some extra resources on the floor to help you navigate this, whatever it is. But expect it and plan for it. Number three, have a rationale. I think I've already said that, but have a rationale
Yeah.
behind the change. We're not changing just because we want to sell unique keyboards, or we've got a new server. One rationale.
The iPhone.
Yeah.
The iPhone. Yes. Hey, it's a new year. We got a new iPhone. What's it
Exactly.
do different? I
It's
don't know, but it's a
exactly.
new iPhone.
It's a new one,
Woo! We
right?
put a new number on it.
That's a
Yeah.
good point. That is a very good point. But there were some cases where we had to go in and change everybody's operating system because Microsoft was no longer supporting their old system. And so that to explain that to a non-technical user, you can say, you know what, we've got to do this because let's say you're in a document and it freezes up while you're trying to print it. We have, and I call Microsoft and say, hey, it's not working. They're not going to even come. They're not even going to take the call. It's a little
Yeah.
oversimplistic, but it's true.
Right.
And so we're doing this to keep us current so we can get the current support. Oh, okay. That happens for accounting systems, for HR systems, for billing systems, the whole 9 yards. And then I don't know if I'm up to 4 or 5. 4, I think. Don't
I think, yeah.
neglect training. As I mentioned,
Okay.
so important. That was the important part. And I think sometimes IT people sometimes I can get a new version of Windows this afternoon, and like that, by dinner time, I've mastered it because I'm used to it. I'm a tech guy, whatever. But non-technical people, you throw one little thing. I got an attorney one time. They got apoplectic because some icons on his desktop were moved to a new location after an update. He went nuts.
Yes.
So
Yes.
people don't deal with that. So training is important. So I never implemented a new system for a client, but that before they got it installed, we had extensive training classes, and that was either in
Okay.
person, online, usually in person, usually accompanied by a manual. A manual that
Okay.
going
Yeah.
over all the new parts and how to navigate it. And then finally, the last thing is follow up. Anytime there's change, you've got to have follow up. And I had a rule in my company. Many times we did system upgrades, big time installs over a weekend because we had extra time. And so if we were putting in a brand new system, let's say it's a document management system or maybe a new operating system, a new email system, whatever it is, and it's going to change the way people implement or interact with that technology, then even though we had training the week before, I would always schedule extra people that Monday morning after the change to just be there. You may not do anything, but just be there. Walk the
That's
floor,
smart.
be there, hold their hand, say, we're going to get through this together. Encourage and the follow through. And that might happen for several days, depending on how long it takes. But that don't neglect the follow through. So those
That
are
makes sense.
keys to successful change, but change is hard.
Okay, so you're changing, how do you know it's worked? How do you know, hey, the hand holdings worked? Is it just complaints go down?
Yeah,
Is it things get more
yeah.
efficient? How do you have any measurements on that?
Uh, we would people would submit help tickets
Okay.
in our system, and so when you would see the help request for the new DMS, the new document management system, are down considerably today, then okay, we're getting traction. People are using it. So
Okay.
you stop getting calls. Yeah,
All right. And internally, it's the same way. If on your own company,
yeah,
you've changed something,
absolutely.
HR, you've changed that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I mentioned, when we changed our billing, uh, the first time the new bills went out, we got calls about it. But after a while, like we never got a call. People just paid their bill. People didn't question. It was accepted. It became the new norm.
Got it. Okay. Sometimes too, I think change is it depends on which end you're on or what area, but, in business, because you're all in like, "Okay, we're supposed to be doing this. We're supposed to be making it better," or whatever, you sometimes you're more flexible than if you are in personal areas where it's like, "This
Perhaps.
is what makes Kent essential,
Yeah.
and there how dare you think I need to change that?" Or whatever.
I think where it really comes, I think it's easier for people that are not owners or founders to change because you realize that's just a part of it. But I really do think for a founder, um, sometimes ego gets in the place. Um, because this is the way I set it up, much like that senior partner I talked to you about. We were
Yeah.
trashing the old system that he had established, but he recognized that was great 10 years ago,
Right.
but it's time to move on. And he recognized that, to his credit. And it's to a
That's a great
founder's credit
story.
when they recognize, okay, it may have not, the new idea may not be my idea. It may be some young person that's working for me that suggested a new way of doing things. I can't let my ego stand in the way of saying, you know what, kid, that's a great idea. Let's try it.
Let's run with it. Yeah. Change is hard, but it's necessary.